Can you tell me what you do for a living and how did you start doing stand-up comedy?
My job, like my full-time job, is I work in corporate. I actually went to school for journalism, but after I graduated, my performance anxiety and my anxiety was on a level where I couldn't cope with it. And I couldn't push through, and I didn't know why, because what was weird is that I'm such an extreme extrovert. Like, I am the life of any party. I will talk to strangers on the street. Like, I love people. People love me. But when I had to be on a stage or perform or do an interview, I couldn't do it. So then I worked for the federal government for many years. So when I was finally treated for that, I was able to get this job, which is the most fantastic job. And even though my job doesn't have anything really to do with ADHD, because I'm so open about mine and I identify at work, comedy is something that actually, it was like a plan I came up with like my therapist to overcome my performance anxiety. So it's really exposure therapy. It's, you know what, you're freaked out to do something, you got to push yourself to do it.
Really?
Yes, the medication helps, but still, the more I do it, the easier it gets. And so I do find sometimes now with kids, so I do believe very much that in order to get comfortable with something, you have to get uncomfortable. So that's what I've been trying to do with my comedy. And it was really, really hard. The first time I went up on stage, I really thought, like, I don't think I can do this. And I get very physical symptoms. So I get very sweaty hands. I get really shaky. My heart is beating here. But I pushed through. So yeah. And I've always been funny. Like, I've always been a comedian and a performer. And so then I just forced myself. And someone asked me to do it. And I vowed that I would never say no. So when they said, do you want to do a show? I would say yes. And then I would prepare for it. And I do attribute it to my ADHD. My brain's always working to come up with comedy and jokes. So I think that piece of like people pleasing, like you want to make people laugh. So I do a lot of volunteer work. Like, there's a lot of things I think that come with wanting to make people happy. And that is a very ADHD thing, by the way. Having a sense of justice and advocacy, justice seeking is, I think.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your career story. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you this question. Staying confident can be hard sometimes, especially for adults with ADHD.
Yeah.
So how do you keep your self-esteem up? Do you have any advice for others who might struggle with this?
Yeah. The other piece I forgot to mention about the performance anxiety piece, from where it comes from for a lot of people with ADHD, is that there's something called RSD, which is rejection sensitivity dysphoria, right? So it's that strong reaction and fear of rejection and strong adverse effects to criticism. And it's because people with ADHD are such feelers, are so intuitive. And so I now realize that that's where my rejection sensitivity came from. Like, my performance anxiety came from that, because A, I'm a perfectionist, B, I'm very intuitive, and I'm a feeler. And so when I'm on a stage and there are two people rolling their eyes, that I can see that.
Me too.
And I can feel that. And then I feel like an idiot. And then I feel like I'm not funny. So not only, right, can I see and hear and feel a room. Like, if I walk into a room and people are looking at me weird, I feel it. Therapy and coaching is very important when it comes. We have to learn that self-talk to mute it. Like, it's not real. People are not judging you. This is all in your head, right? But then also learning to be open and honest about your experience. And I've always been such an open book. And the more open I am about my own experience, the more you will find that so many other people are like you. So I do find there's a lot of people out there who are neurodivergent. They don't talk about it. But when you can admit to somebody, I'm not perfect and I struggle with this, like, and they'll be like, oh, me too. And then you get to feel comfortable. So that is something that I find is really important when it comes to confidence building, is just being okay with being yourself and having the courage to be yourself.